Hey everybody, this is Rick Prokop and welcome to Piano Power Lessons. Today I'm going to begin a new unit based entirely on this first grade book of John Thompson. And the reason being is you can learn so much about music and playing the piano within the pages of this book. The great thing is it's now available online as a free PDF, so you can just download the whole thing and print it out. I'm not sure who authorized that, so I'm not going to tell you how to get there. I'm not sure if it's legal. I don't know how any of these things have been worked out, but it seems like they've sold enough copies since the 30s, and they have so much competition with other beginners' books that they just don't care, and it's up there. So try to find it and download it, and you'll have it. So let's begin. So Musicland and a lot of the little songs in this book are an example of what's called counterpoint, where we have two melodies playing at the same time. The right-hand melody is a slow half-note melody. That's the first phrase. And then its logical conclusion goes like that. And the left-hand melody is a slower, actually twice as slow for most of the piece as the right hand, which perfectly complements the right hand. So let's take a listen to that. So 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's try them together. Ready? 2, 3, 4. So as you can see, throughout most of the piece, you have a 2-to-1 ratio in speed between the two hands. And then right at the end, he tries to make it a little more interesting, and the rhythmic speed of the left hand speeds up to correspond with that of the right hand. Years ago, I was watching Charlie Rose, and he was interviewing Peter O'Toole. And he asked Peter O'Toole, what's the process you use to learn a part? And he said, Charles, what I do is I use the classical method. I look at the words and I enunciate the words very clearly throughout without trying to do anything, without trying to put any meaning to them. And I do this over and over again. And it's only at that point that they start to mean something to me. And I become aware of what I should do with these words. So in my, quote, classical method of learning the piano, there are 3 things that I try to do. And these 3 things, any great virtuoso, whether it's a jazz pianist or a great classical pianist, can do these 3 things easily. Number 1, be able to play all of the notes with the same exact volume. Number 2, be able to play those notes precisely in time. And the way to monitor that is to put on a metronome. One, two, three, four. And number three is called synchronization. So if you look at this music, wherever there are vertically aligned notes, this C and the E, this E and the G, this G and the D, this C and the E, you play them exactly together. You synchronize them. So we have the metronome on. I'm getting equal volume of sound on the notes. I'm playing exactly in time, and I'm going to synchronize the notes. 2, 3, 4. And the result is, it sounds pretty good, doesn't it? Well, let's speed it up a little bit now and see if it still sounds good using those same three principles. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, I bring up these three principles because I was never really taught them by any of the teachers that I studied with. And I studied with about 10 different teachers over my lifetime. And very often what happens, and I'm sure a lot of you have experienced this, when you go to a lesson, you bring your piece in and the teacher listens and goes, oh, no, 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 you have to play this softer, you have to make an accelerando here, and then you come around here, and then slow down here, and dwell on this note a little bit. And the result is you never learn to basically play this instrument. So I'd like to go to the keyboard now and just go over the hands alone with you. And there is one thing I want to point out. At the end of this phrase, you see a whole note. But if you were singing this phrase or playing it with a flute, you would play through all of these notes perhaps with one breath, and then you run out of breath and you have to take a breath somewhere. And you do that on the fourth beat. But on the piano, a breath is achieved by simply taking your hand off the keyboard. So I want to show you an easy way to get a nice sound out of every finger that you play. And good idea would be to just hold your wrist very loosely with your thumb on top and your second finger underneath the wrist and manipulate your wrist with your left hand. And you produce a sound simply by dropping your wrist. See, and now I'll do 2 bumps, down, up for a half note, because there's 2 beats, down, up. See? Now watch this, 1, 2, 3, off. And then you resume by just dropping again. Now, the reason why I would like you to move your wrist this way is because it'll stay supple and flexible. And if your wrist can move, it means your fingers can also move. If your wrist tightens up, what happens is your entire forearm tightens up, and from your elbow down to your fingertips becomes like a rock. It's very hard to move your fingers in that kind of scenario. So you always want to keep this loose. Okay, and then the left hand alone is basically doing the same thing, but at half the speed. So now you're going to have 4 bounces on these whole notes. For example, 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, and back to the C. And then we're going to float off 3 on 4. Now we resume 3, 4, 3, 4, down, 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 up, down, 2, 3, 4. And let's try it with the metronome on now. Metronome is set to 80. Here we go. 3, actually 1, 2, 3, 4. Keep that wrist moving. 2, 3, off. Well, that's it for this lesson on Musicland. In the next lesson, I'm going to show you how to put the hands together. But I'm really not encouraging that strongly at this point. If you've never played with your hands together, it's a frightening thing, reading the notes, coordinating the hands. So I'd like you to spend a lot of time just playing the hands alone. Put the metronome on, do all the moves that I showed you, and just really get comfortable with each hand. And just do this over and over and over again. And it'll sink into your brain very strongly. And then when we go to put the hands together, that information will be readily available to you, stored in your brain. And the thing is, you've stored it really correctly now. So your brain really understands how to play this hands alone and what's going on with each part. So with that, I'll see you next time, and thanks for joining me once again at Piano Power Lessons.